Okay, back on exercise 1, we're going to take a look at the distance and ground speed questions. Take a look at our first question. We have a distance of 72 nautical miles. We have a ground speed of 110 knots. What is the time it's going to take us to travel that distance? Well, the first thing we want to do is we want to work the mental estimate, which if we're going 110 knots in 1 hour and the distance is 72 nautical miles, we know it's going to take less than an hour. And just doing a rough estimate, somewhere around the 3/4 of an hour range is a minute mark that we'll be looking for. So let's go ahead and take a look and see how they set this problem up. Looking at the E6B, the very first thing I want to do is I want to set 110 knots into my E6B using our black triangle, which I call the rate indicator. And the rate indicator is under a number that represents 110 knots, in this case 11. We're then going to refer over to the actual distance, which is 72 nautical miles, and we're going to read our time underneath the distance. So we have 70 nautical miles on the top scale, 71, 72 on the small hash marks. Referring directly opposite to that, it's approximately 39 minutes. So if we're traveling at 110 nautical miles per hour, it'll take us approximately 39 minutes to travel 72 nautical miles. Okay, looking at the second problem, which is very similar to the first problem, except we've altered our ground speed to 92 knots. We're going to be traveling 110 nautical miles. First task, do the mental estimate. 92 knots, 92 nautical miles per hour. We're going 110 nautical miles. So the answer is going to be over 60 minutes. So that's our mental estimate. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at our solution on the E6B. So rotating what I call our rate dial over to 92, which represents 92 knots, we're then going to look at a number that represents 110 nautical miles, and our solution is 70, 71, 72 minutes. So 72 minutes to travel 110 nautical miles, given our rate of 92 nautical miles per hour, or 92 knots. Okay, taking a look at the third problem. In this case, we're given our ground speed of 184 knots, and we're given the time of 67 minutes, and how far in nautical miles have we flown. So taking a look at our speed of 184 nautical miles per hour, knowing that we're flying over an hour, the answer we're going to be expecting is going to be greater than 184 nautical miles. So taking a look at our E6B flight computer, the very first thing I'm going to do is set up my rate, and the rate is set in with the rate arrow, or the 60 mark, meaning units per hour, underneath a number representing 184. I'm then going to go take a look at 67 minutes, which in this case is right next to my rate arrow. And looking at the 67 mark, and these are all marked off by ones. So here is 65, 66, 67. We're going to call that 205 nautical miles. So in this case, the answer is 205 nautical miles. Okay, the fourth problem gives us a third unknown to be solved for, and that is determining ground speed. A very common calculation as you're flying, because you're going to be realizing, based on a watch time or a time that you've recorded, how long it's taking you to travel a certain distance, and as you mark it over certain landmarks or checkpoints, you'll be able to determine your ground speed in flight accurately from these calculations. So this problem is going to give us 92 nautical miles of distance that we've covered in 55 minutes. Now again, taking the mental estimate, we've almost gone, we've almost been flowing for 1 hour. So the answer we're going to be expecting is an answer close to somewhere between 90 and 105, 110. So just as long as we're in that area, expecting that answer, that's what we're looking for. So let's take a look at our layout here. And in this case, we have 92 on the outside, which represents our nautical miles, 55 minutes on the inside. And then looking at our black triangle, opposite that will be our ground speed in nautical miles per hour. And in this case, we're going to call it 100. Okay, our last problem is similar to our third problem. We're going to be given a ground speed of 117 knots. We're going to be flying for 41 minutes. What is the distance traveled? Again, looking at the mental estimate, less than an hour, our ground speed was 117 knots. In an hour, we'd fly 117 nautical miles. So we're going to take 2/3 of that. We're expecting an answer around the 80, 90, range in distance. Taking a look at our setup on the E6B, the very first thing we do is we set our rate in. The rate in this case is 117, and this is positioned to represent 117. Next, we're going to take a look at our time, which is 41 minutes. And again, that's on the inside scale. They don't call it a whiz wheel and it doesn't spin for nothing, folks. There we go, taking a look at 41 minutes. Directly opposite of 41 minutes is 80 nautical miles. So our final answer for that final problem in this series is 80 nautical miles.